Hello everyone, this is Prem Sodani coming up with the next round of our editorial decoded session, and in this session we are going to learn about this editorial, that is error corrected. So this error was committed by Nagpur Bench of Bombay High Court, especially in the matter of interpretation of section 7 of this POCSO Act. So in this video, in this session, we will discuss about the POCSO Act also, what was the error and how it was corrected by the Supreme Court. So let's get started with the editorial session. So this is the editorial which appeared in The Hindu, and what is the background? Let me discuss that background first. It was the case of Satish v versus State of Maharashtra, in which actually the Nagpur bench has misinterpreted the section 7 of the POCSO Act. This section 7 of POCSO Act says there must be a physical contact or a touch which should describe the sexual assault or the sexual abuse. But in case of this misinterpretation, this was said by the Nagpur bench that because this was not a skin to skin contact, therefore this person was absolved from the guilty, right? So this should not be dealt under the provision of POCSO because there was no skin to skin contact was there. So what was the mistake here? The mistake was the misinterpretation, because it was the intent which was to be penalized under this act of POCSO. Means if you have the malign intentions especially, so even if it does not involve the skin to skin contact, but it has some kind of malign intentions, it has some kind of contact which is not skin to skin, but still there is some contact, that must be penalized. That was the aim of this act, and this was misinterpreted especially by this Nagpur bench. So how it was corrected by the Supreme Court, we'll discuss that thing also. First let me start with the provisions of this POCSO Act and what is this section 7. We'll discuss that thing. So the interpretation of POCSO was misinterpreted. We have discussed that thing. The section 7 was the one which was misinterpreted. This says there should be a physical contact or touch, and the bench said that, Nagpur bench said that must be skin to skin contact, right? So what is the aim of this act, particularly of this POCSO Act? That is to penalize the action rooted in sexual intents, right? If you are not having that good intentions, or if you have some sexual intentions, then you can be penalized under this POCSO Act, right? This is the aim of this act. So what are the provisions of this POCSO Act? We'll discuss that thing one by one. So let me start with this first provision of this act, that is, this act is gender neutral. What does it mean? Gender neutral means even if a sexual offense is committed against a boy, or even if it is a girl, so they will be dealt equally under this act of POCSO, right? So this is gender neutral act, number one. Number two, those who are under the age of 18 years, they will be treated as a children under this POCSO Act, right? This is the second provision. The third provision says the sexual abuses are well defined under this act, and that says it includes penetration or non-penetration, both, non-penetrative act, both. It includes aggravated or non-aggravated, both of the acts. So what is aggravated act? Aggravated act will be like when children is, or the child is mentally ill, number one, mentally ill, or second, if a person who is accused was in the place of trust or in the position of trust. For example, he was the relative of this child, number one, relative, or I can say the teacher of that child, or the police personnel, or doctor, or a person of armed forces. If they are committing this act of sexual offenses, then this will come under the category of aggravated sexual offense, right? So this is aggravated and non-aggravated. Then the third thing is to protect the children from child pornography and any type of sexual assault. Sexual assault. So these are the provisions or these are the definitions under this sexual abuses, right? So this is well defined under this act of POCSO, which includes penetrative actions, non-penetrative acts, aggravated acts, non-aggravated acts, child pornography, and the provisions related to the sexual assault. So these are dealt under this particular sexual abuses, right? Now we come to the next part of this act, that is the special provisions of this POCSO act. So when it comes to the special provisions, so the first special provision is there should be a special fast track code, right? Fast track code. So a special code is the first thing. The second is special prosecutors are there. The third thing is the provision of compensation is there. Compensation is there. The fourth provision is the provision of translator is there. And then the whole trial must be video recorded also. So video recording provision is there. Video recording provision. And then the most important is the children need to be protected, and for their protection the bodies like National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights is involved here. State Commission for the Protection of Child Right also involved, especially in the matters of monitoring, right? So this is the other provision. Then there is no time limit in order to, if you want to file a complaint under these provisions of the POCSO Act, there is no timeline. Means whenever you want to, you can actually file the complaint. So complaint can be filed here. Complaint can be filed here without having no time limit. No time limit, right? So this is the next provision. And next thing is very special thing, that is this case of under this POCSO provision must be disposed within the period of 1 year. That is the special provision of this act. Again, 1 year's time frame is there to dispose the matter under this POCSO provisions, right? So this is the special provisions of POCSO Act. The first thing is special fast court tracks, special fast courts, then special prosecutors, provision of the compensation, then translators, video recording, involvement of this NCPCR, and then complaint can be filed without having any time limit, and then 1 year is the period which is given in order to dispose the case under these POCSO provisions. Some other important sections are also there. Let me erase all these things. If you want to take the screenshot, you can. So the special provision of this section 29, this says a person who is accused under the provision of POCSO must be or shall be considered as the guilty. So there is presumption of guilty provision is there, right? So this is the important provision, and it is the it is the accused who need to prove that he is innocent, right? So the burden of proving innocent will definitely lie on the accused. This is the special provision under this section 29 of this POCSO Act. Then we'll come to the section 7, which was actually misinterpreted, which says there need to be a physical contact or a touch, right, which was actually misinterpreted, and it was said under this judgment of Satish V that this contact or this touch needs to be skin to skin. So this was actually misinterpreted, and this was corrected timely by the Supreme Court, which says the interpretation is not the proper one. The interpretation must be in line with the intention of that particular aim. And what is the objective or the intention of this aim of POCSO? To protect the children, especially against the sexual offences or the child pornography. So the intentions which are malign in nature, they need to be punished under the POCSO provisions. This is the intention of this act. And when it comes to the skin to skin contact, it is somewhere diluting the provisions especially of this POCSO Act, which is not actually in line with the objectives of the POCSO Act that was given. This was the judgment given by the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court judgment was basically based on the case of especially Balram Kumawat versus Union of India, right? So in this case it was said that the interpretation of a particular act should be such that it must strengthen the very objective of that particular act, and it should not actually discontract, or it should not actually dilute the provisions or the objective of that particular act. That was the judgment under this Balram Kumawat versus Union of India case, right? So Supreme Court was actually giving its judgment based on this case only. So this was all about in this editorial which we have discussed. Nagpur Bench was misinterpreting the provision of this physical touch or the physical contact. So it was timely corrected by the Supreme Court of India. This was all about this editorial. I hope you might have some learning in this editorial session. We'll be discussing some other editorials in our further discussions. So thank you very much for watching this one. If you have any doubt, you can comment that down in comment section. Thank you very much once again.
Current Affairs by ForumIAS is an all-in-one program that covers the dynamic aspect of the syllabus from both prelims and mains perspectives. Last year, we have helped more than 100 students crack IAS with our current affairs classes.